Hello you guys, welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. It is just Mrs. today. I'm Sarah and I'm here to provide some good tips for a job interview, especially if you are applying to a teaching job. Now a lot of the tips will apply regardless of the job that you're applying to, but based on being through the job interview process several times and having a job now from both of those times, I wanted to share a couple of my best tips to help you out if you're in that situation or hoping to be in that situation very soon. So my first tip is to just make sure that you're carrying yourself in a very professional way. This is important before, during, and after the interview. Before, just make sure that your phone voicemail message is professional. Make sure that your email communication is professional, and just throughout the interview and afterwards, and any future communication you have with the school, keeping that as professional as possible just to set a really good tone for yourself and working at that particular school or district. If you are nervous about going to this job interview, it could be helpful to scope out the interview site, drive by the school beforehand, just to see where you'll be going and know kind of where you'll park, if that helps you. Again, that's not necessarily always possible or always realistic, but I think that can help you, especially if you're nervous, just so you don't have to really worry about where you're going or if you're gonna be able to find it or not. GPS today makes things a little bit easier, but you never know, it could just help kind of calm you down a little bit beforehand. I have done this in the past sometimes, but it depends how far away the job is. I would encourage you to prep your outfit and other materials you might need ahead of time. I do have one of these little interview things that I use, and it's got like a notebook in it and a pen, and I also will print off the copy of my resume and cover letter, since some schools suggest that they'd like to see those, in addition to maybe other application materials. Just see what's listed. I know on ours, AppleTrack is a site that's often used, and it will tell you a list of things often of what you'd like to bring. I've had some interviews where they ask for those things and I'll bring them in here. Sometimes they actually ask to see them, sometimes they don't, so that's just something to keep in mind. Before your interview happens, I think it can be helpful to familiarize yourself with some school policies or initiatives that the school has. Familiarize yourself with some of the names of key staff members so you're able to remember them a little bit easier, and you kind of maybe even know what you're expecting or who might be in on the interview. And this can help you be a little bit more mindful of what the school climate is like, and to help you maybe customize some of your own answers to really showcase some of why you might be a good fit for that school. This can also help you prepare questions too. I think it can also be helpful to go through different interview questions. I'll put a few popular ones that I've received in my interviews, as well as from different books and other online resources I've read, in the description field below. So if you want to see sample questions, you can check down there. But I think prepping a little bit and thinking about different experiences you've had in the classroom, whether you're just starting out for your teaching job and maybe just have had observations or student teaching, or your lifetime of experience, think about some of those key parts, maybe where you had a challenging student in the classroom and how you dealt with it, thinking about ways that you interacted with parents. Some of these kind of things, really have those examples in your head, so when they ask you those questions, you don't have to really think about what you would do in that situation, because you've got an example you can refer to. I think can also be helpful if you've got a recent evaluation. I was in a recent interview. I was actually just asked about strengths and weaknesses from my most recent evaluation, and that was not something I had brushed up on. And so I struggled a little bit on that question. So that's definitely a tip I'd have as well. But I think overall with those questions, you don't want to be too rehearsed, because that could maybe just send off maybe more of a negative vibe. Even if you're nervous, I'd encourage you to try to stay as calm as possible so that your true personality can show through. I think it's not an ideal situation, but if you are able to show who you are and show kind of more of your obviously professional but still fun side or different personality characteristics, I think that can be really helpful to help them see if it'd be a good fit for you working there. Be nice to everyone you encounter, even if it's a secretary or a maintenance person who you don't think has any role in terms of getting the job. Sometimes districts will ask others that you interacted with on your way into the interview to see kind of how you treated them. And I think overall they want people who are going to be nicer to everyone. So definitely not just for whoever's in the interview with you, but other staff, just be really pleasant and friendly. They will often ask you for several questions, so I would recommend having some questions that you can ask them. Things that I like to ask about if I'm in an interview is about their new teacher program. So how do they support new teachers in their district? I also like to ask about their technology initiatives. So those are a couple go-tos I have, but obviously if you've got questions that you have, I mean, feel free to ask those. I just like to have a couple prepared just so I'm not like on the spot trying to think of a question. Finally, after the interview is done, I recommend sending a follow-up email or thank you note. I recommend the email just because that is a lot quicker and you'll know it goes directly to the people. Thank them for their time, say that it was a pleasure to have that interview and get to know their school district and the position a little bit better. And you never know, that could be sometimes a deciding factor about whether or not you get the job. So best of luck with all of your work with trying to get a new teaching job or other job if you're in a different field. And if you are a teacher or like to learn more about educational content, especially in the field of social studies, but a lot of our content is very general to a lot of other teachers too, we'd love to have you here as a subscriber at Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies, and I will also put links below to our other resources. Have a great rest of your day and we'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!